Good morning and peace be upon you wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Qasim Rashid, and this is the Qasim Rashid Show here on Sirius XM Urban View Channel 126, the most awesome show in the multiverse. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Substack, make sure you hit that subscribe button so we can keep creating this content. A great show this week. A lot of wild things happening in our country right now. And this is a unique show because I took the show on the road this week. It started out after we go to break in a minute here, we're going to bring on the first deputy mayor of New York City, Dean Fuleihan, who was just appointed last week by Mayor Elect Mamdani. And I was grateful for this interview because we had a chance to speak on everything from the budget to figuring out how you're going to create more transparency. How are you going to win over the trust of people who didn't vote for Mayor Elect Mamdani? And what kind of media engagement strategy are they going to have? It was actually a privilege to have that interview because it was mere hours after he had been appointed, and I was grateful that I was one of the first people they reached out to have the conversation. So definitely kudos to me on that one. But I appreciated the Mamdani campaign reaching out in the first place. We're going to have that in just a few minutes. And then I took the show on the road. I joined actually a former guest of this show, Dara Starr Tucker, singer-songwriter, activist, amazing woman out in Los Angeles. We were in her Los Angeles studios, and we discussed everything from the shutdown to the Epstein files to why I think Trump might start another war to prevent the release of the Epstein files. So that's not a segment you're going to want to miss either. If you're listening on Substack or YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to go directly to the interview I had with first Deputy Mayor of New York City, Dean Fuleihan. That interview is right now. I'm so excited to speak with New York City's newest Deputy Mayor, Dean Fuleihan, who was just appointed this morning by Mayor-elect Mamdani. Mr. Deputy Mayor, thanks for spending a few minutes with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
You know, we don't have a lot of time, but I want to get into some of the core aspects of this. You've obviously had a brilliant career in New York City politics and public service, worked on numerous different administrations. Just kind of a very general question. You obviously accepted the nomination from Mayor-elect Mamdani. What motivated you and inspired you to make this move?
You know, it's a great question. I like talking about it. From before I had met him, I was inspired by his campaign, and then meeting him late winter while the primary was still very active. It just affirmed everything I had thought about somebody who was putting out an aggressive agenda to deal with real problems that New Yorkers are confronting every single day. And he didn't waver from that agenda. He continued to say, this is what we need to accomplish. And yet he was very open to saying, okay, are there other ways to do it? Is there something? He's very open to listening, having conversations, even with people who he disagrees with or disagrees or they disagree with him. He's willing to figure out, are there other ways to get at it? Are there other ways to deal with this issue? And it's just admirable. And there's no way not to be inspired by that. I said that when this morning, and I really do think it's a privilege that he's giving me again to serve as first deputy mayor, to accomplish that very clear agenda and help New Yorkers. And so I was inspired by this before. It was magnified by meeting with him, and he knew from the very beginning that I was committed to helping in any way he needed me to help, whether that was officially inside or whether that was outside.
Well, congrats to you on this role. And, you know, Mayor-elect Mamdani spoke about poetry in prose, about governing in prose. And you're a man who knows about the budget, $100 billion budget of New York City. So let's talk about money. One of the biggest complaints I think ordinary folks have is, where the hell does the money go? How is it spent? What is the Mamdani administration going to do to ensure a sense of meaningful transparency so that ordinary New Yorkers and folks know where their tax dollars are going, how they're being spent?
Yeah. You know, I spent years doing this, and believe me, I have nothing but great admiration for people who in the city budget office. They are an incredibly talented group of people. And I always thought, wow, there's a tremendous amount of transparency. And then when I got out and was working on the research side at CUNY and trying to find things, I was thinking, why in the world is it so difficult to understand this? So I'm going to bring a slightly different perspective this time that says, okay, how do we simplify this? How do we say, here are the things we're spending? Here's how we're establishing, because a budget, look, it is the policy document, right? It is the document of a city. It says what we think is important. So we need to make sure that we're conveying these are the priorities. These are the constraints. These are the things we can't do. We're going to maintain fiscal responsibility in this budget. We're not going to break a long tradition in New York City, but we're also going to accomplish new goals that the city desperately needs for its economic health and for the security and the hope that came through this campaign. So we need to articulate that. I actually think one of the great benefits we have is the mayor elect is excellent at communicating this and making sure he stays in touch with those people who have supported him and stays in touch with the rest of the city to represent them and tell them, here are the decisions we're making, here's how we're moving forward. And that has to be a real goal. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you build trust. Transparency leads to trust. And, running on this message of affordability is going to be even more important as we're dealing with this government shutdown, the potential 18 billion being denied to New York City from Donald Trump. And with holiday season coming up, small businesses are the lifeblood of New York City, of any metropolis. But you have these major conglomerates like Amazon and Target kind of decimating them. What is the Mamdani administration doing to rebalance that? To ensure that small businesses have a level playing field and small business owners in New York City can actually make a profitable income while facing these monopolies?
Look, we're going to be, I mean, again, we're at the beginning of this process. We were just announced, but he is already hitting the ground running and working with different communities. And we're going to do that. And we're going to understand what their problems are. Where is city government not responding? I mean, he's been very clear about this. Like when is the city not picking up the phone? When is it not saying you have a problem, but answering it, but then trying to figure out what's the solution to that problem? And that's going to be one of our goals. And you know what? We're going to be judged by that. And we're all okay with that. Certainly the mayor elect is. So if he's okay with that, his team is going to be okay with that. And we're going to be judged by those pressures that you're talking about that small business face.
One thing that impressed me about the mayor-elect's victory speech was he called on New Yorkers, whether they voted for him or not, to hold him accountable to the high standards that he set. I think that's fantastic. That's what you want in a public servant. One of the things that I'd love to hear more from you as kind of the first deputy mayor leading the budget as well is Mayor-elect Mamdani spoke often on the campaign trail about the multiplier effect, where we often talk about the cost of free buses, but we never talk about the multiplier effect on the economy. Can you talk a bit more about that and why that's such an important part of the conversation?
Sure. I mean, I mean, New York City is an amazing place, but it has serious pressures, and it has the affordability crisis is a crisis that literally has to be dealt with. He has outlined ways to do that. If you provide childcare, we are taking a burden away, and it creates all sorts of economic benefits. It helps those companies that are struggling to find employees because young families can't afford to live in New York. And I was part of this, and I'm proud of this, when Bill de Blasio did, and also when everybody told him you couldn't do it, in 2 years, another class, when he did universal pre-K for 4-year-olds in 2 years, that changed the life of those parents, right? It both helped the children, it changed the life of those parents. That creates economic activity. I don't want to just think about it. It's not the purpose of doing it, but it has to be part of the budget equation. What are the benefits to dealing with childcare? There are benefits. What are the benefits to paying a decent wage to a workforce that is often really underpaid? What are there are benefits to that, and those benefits flow through the whole economy. And we're gonna articulate those. We're not just going to say we're doing this. We're going to say here are the consequences of doing that, and that's incumbent on us.
Absolutely. I mean, it's telling the story. And I know we're down to just the final couple minutes. So, two more quick questions that I wanted to cover. One thing that Mayor Elect Mamdani has done, I thought beautifully, is go beyond mainstream and corporate media. I mean, the sheer fact that his first deputy mayor, hours after being appointed, is doing a Substack Live is fantastic. And I think it speaks to your accessibility. What's the philosophy behind this outreach strategy, and what can we expect in how this shapes the administration in the coming term?
Well, we've seen it in the campaign. You did a better job than I did in articulating the benefit of this and why it's important, because the goal we have to go where people are living. We have to go where everybody is getting their news and giving us information. And I don't know anyone who does this better than the mayor elect.
I love
So
that.
and if he's doing it, and we're all going to be communicating in this way to make sure that the message is getting out and the support that we need for that message. That can't be lost either. It's the support that we need for this message to make it clear in New York City, in Albany, in Washington, that these are important things, that these matter to people, that it wasn't just an election thing. It was about more than a.
That's exactly right. Last question before you go, because I certainly hope to get then Mayor Mamdani, and of course, you're always invited back on this platform.
Thank you.
What's your message to those who didn't vote for the mayor-elect or are skeptical? What can they do to engage with you to earn the trust of the mayor-elect?
We're gonna be reaching out. He is our. I mean, the mayor elect has started this. He's been reaching out. One thing he is really quite amazing at is listening to people to get their views. To make sure that he is not just talking to supporters, but to people who didn't support him, and that's going to be throughout the entire administration.
First Deputy Mayor Fuleihan, thank you so much for your time today. Good luck on your term, and we hope to have you back on soon.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to it.
Take care.
Take care.
That, my friends, was first Deputy Mayor of New York City, Dean Fuleihan. We're going to have him back on. We're going to try to get Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani on soon as well. But I'm really excited about what this administration is going to do, what they're aspiring to do, their transparency, the leaning in to what's possible as opposed to excuses of what's not possible. And look, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Our job as voters is to do our due diligence to get the best person elected possible, and then haunt their dreams to make sure they do what they promise to do. And while you've seen me be an ardent supporter of Zoran Mamdani, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go easy. I'm going to make sure we hold him accountable because he's made promises, and that's the expectation he set. I think our responsibility is to make sure that we are upholding justice and holding him accountable. So keep me honest about that. I'm going to keep him honest about that. Let's keep working. Next, I'm going to take you to Los Angeles. I had a phenomenal conversation with my good friend Dara Starr Tucker, singer, songwriter, just all around brilliant leader, activist, blacktivist, you name it. She's got everything. And the conversation revolved around the shutdown, around why corporate Democrats are just failing in their responsibility to be an opposition party, and what we need to do to actually protect our democracy, our republic, our politics, our humanity in a long-term scale. And I think for me, that starts in part by removing people like Chuck Schumer who have no business being in a leadership position. We desperately need new leadership. So we're going to go straight to that interview with Dara Starr Tucker.
Well, good morning and welcome back to the front page. I am Dara Starr Tucker, and well, the man is here, y'all. He's here. He's in the building, guys. Qasim Rashid is here. Oh my God, Maya was fangirling out just a little bit. So Maya gets to fangirl, then I get to fangirl. Dorian, are you fanboying at all?
Absolutely. You just can't see it in my face.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, there's a lot of work going on.
Keep it professional.
Yes.
Okay.
But I am.
Qasim.
Good to be here.
Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Yeah, Qasim's been on how many times have you been on the show so far, Qasim?
A bunch of, first time in studio, but I've been on a bunch of times.
Yeah,
It's always been a great show.
It's probably been 3 times you've been on.
At
already.
least,
This
yeah.
would be your 4th appearance. So you are, I think, our most frequent guest
I love it.
on
It's a good honor to have.
the front page, and we appreciate you. He's the one I call when I'm in a panic, and I'm like, I need somebody to talk about politics, and we need somebody now. So this time, we actually got to think about it for about 5 seconds before it happened. Well, no, actually, I think it was still kind of last minute. I knew you were going to be here in LA, but it just didn't occur to me
Yeah.
to bring you in.
And I'm in and out. It's like a 36-hour trip. So
Yeah.
this timing is actually, it's like a puzzle piece. It's fit right in. It's perfect.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's good.
We are going to take one call before we get to our conversation. Diamond is on line 1. I have a sister named Diamond, but I'm sure this is not her. Diamond, good morning and welcome to the front page. Good morning. You wanted to say what? I'm sorry, about benefits? Yes, they are getting their benefits. Okay, yeah, and I knew that this was happening as much as probably a week ago. They started giving out CalFresh benefits, and several states, several blue states had started that process already. Is that correct, Qasim? They were basically advancing the funds through the state,
Yeah.
knowing that they would be reimbursed by the federal government.
Yeah, several states did kind of take the initiative. I wrote about this a while ago, and I was a bit more aggressive with it. I called it soft secession, that states should recognize that the federal government is failing in its responsibility, and they should economically secede and protect their own especially blue states, because blue states are all giver states, and red states are taker states. And so it doesn't make sense that we're giving money to the federal government to then deny the money owed back to us. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about it, it's a longer conversation, but yeah, several states had taken that initiative. I know Minnesota did that as well. Mm-hmm. I know they were doing that in Illinois where I live. Yeah. But obviously this is not the ideal situation.
Yeah. So Qasim, if you all don't know about Qasim, he is a human rights lawyer. He's an activist. He wears a lot of hats, in addition to the literal hat that he is wearing today.
More than one hat right now.
But it's hard to really describe who Qasim is and what he does. It's enough to say that you fight for the marginalized, Qasim, in all things that you do. You now have a creator agency that you run that I'm a part of, and what else are you up to, Qasim, in the world?
We're just, when I was a kid, there was a show on TV called Pinky and the Brain, and every episode would end with, or start with, what are we gonna do tonight? And Brain would respond, same thing we do every night, try to take over the world. We all remember that, right?
Of course.
And so for me, that's kind of the moment here, is how do we take over the world and create a world where everyone can thrive and be successful in whatever it is they want to do, and also have these guaranteed human rights like food and water and shelter and healthcare and education and clothing. Yeah. And so that fusion to me, so the work I do, that's the litmus test. Is this going to advance that? If it does, then I want to do it. If not, then I'm not interested.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to not spend any time gushing. Danny said this is not as long a conversation as he would want, so we're going to get down to business. I want your take on what you think Democrats got out of this shutdown. Did they get anything out of it? Was it worth it at all, considering how it ended?
So, no, I think they folded, and I'm devastated and disappointed that they folded. There's the old saying that if a genie granted Democrats 3 wishes, the Democrats would negotiate it down to 1 wish, and then they would wish for something that they think Republicans would want. After Schumer broke on the shutdown back in March, there was a poll done and a word cloud formed of what people thought of Democrats, and the number 1 word that came out of it was weak. That they're weak on these issues, and that's what's happening here as well. This was a Trump shutdown. You controlled every branch of government, and you set the record, breaking your own record of the longest shutdown in history. Yeah. And you didn't get any actual concessions. You didn't get a guarantee of health care. No sooner did they fold on this that Republicans came back and said, you know what? We're actually not going to protect the ACA unless you give us even more concessions on banning abortion and reproductive health access. That's going to kill more women. It's going to kill more babies. It's going to kill more people in general. So I don't think we actually got much out of it. The ancillary benefit that was not part of the negotiation is that now you've got the 218th member of Congress sworn in to release the Epstein files, which it appears like it might be released soon. And I would give a shout out to Congresswoman Summer Lee and Congressman Ro Khanna, a black woman and Indian man, for leading the charge to get that done, because none of the centrists did anything. It was two staunch progressives who got that done. And so we'll see what comes out of that. My fear, by the way, on that is another conversation, is I don't think it'll actually have any impact on the MAGA movement. I don't think they'll care. He could be front and center in the Epstein files, and there could be video footage of him abusing children, and they're not going to care, because I think it's a cult at this point. But from a practical standpoint, we didn't get any concessions on healthcare. We didn't get any concessions on ensuring SNAP stays protected. We didn't get any concessions on adjusting this, absurd ICE budget. And kicking the can down the road, to me, it's like Lucy in the football every single time. But I don't know if kids get that reference anymore. But
I don't think kids are really listening to this show, Qasim.
Then I think we're okay.
Speaking to your demographic.
I think they were good then, right? I said that to my 16-year-old, and he's like, "What do you mean Lucy in the football?" I'm like, "You go in there, and you read every Peanuts comic, and you do not come out till it's yeah." And so I think that's what it is. It's Lucy in the football, and I just feel like we need new leadership in the Democratic Party desperately right now.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Danny before you came on this morning, Qasim, and I really get where you're coming from, and I did an entire video, bemoaning the fact that this thing ended in the way that it did, but at the same time, I've listened to a few arguments from Democrats who would be considered a bit more centrist, and their argument right now is that we knew the ACA subsidies were not coming back. We knew that the Trump administration would never be open to that particular negotiating tactic. It was simply to shine a light on the fact that they went away, which a lot of people didn't even know. Not to mention, what is it, Medicaid? Is it Medicare or Medicaid that went away also? That was
Medicare.
Yeah. That was deeply slashed as well. So the point was to shine a light, and if you've made your point, and we live to fight another day, we've got another similar fight that's probably coming up in January, because all of this is temporary, if I'm not mistaken. So the other argument is, you've made your point. Now you're causing pain to people who are on SNAP benefits because they're not getting them. You're causing pain to federal workers. Flights are now being interrupted. We're getting into the holiday season now. You've made your point. It's time to end this part of the fight and pick it up at a later time. What would you say to that?
No, we haven't made our point. And I think that's where we need fighters, not folders. Look, 81% of the Democratic Party base said, keep going, hold them accountable. 81%. And they're like, we know better than you guys. We're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about 81% of progressives, 81% of the Democratic Party base. Now, when you look at the reality of it, the push finally came from the big box retailers and the airline companies who said, this is going to cost us a lot of money, so let's figure out a way to make this happen. And no one is talking about the real elephant in the room here regarding healthcare, that you cannot have an opposition party fight against Republicans when they're funded by the same health insurance corporations funding the Republicans. Mm-hmm. I had a friend from the UK ask me, he goes, hey, listen, I feel like I'm dumb asking this question, but why would rates magically double in January for insurance companies? Are you guys getting better health care? Is it more health care? I'm like, no. It's exploitative insurance companies realizing that, hey, we can charge even more now for the exact same substandard health care, and there's not a damn thing that they can do about it. And that's my argument for universal health care. We're spending more than double per capita of every developed country in the world for lower quality health care, lower life expectancy, higher maternal mortality, higher infant mortality, and if you're black or indigenous, it's 3 times higher, and all for what? And so this is the frustration that I have, that these folks, these centrist Democrats will go on TV and they'll wax eloquent about, well, we need to protect healthcare. Well, then why are you taking money from the corporations denying healthcare? Get rid of it. Provide healthcare as a human right, and this won't be an issue anymore. This won't be a debate anymore. Well, we need to protect SNAP. Well, why are people reliant on SNAP? Because you are allowing corporations like Amazon and Walmart to pay for your campaign re-elections to keep the living wage suppressed at $7.25 an hour, right? Like, SNAP is not welfare for hungry people. It's corporate welfare for companies who are exploiting low-income people. Like the whole paradigm needs to shift. We need to stop thinking of SNAP as charity for low-income people. It's not. It's corporate welfare. Because if corporations paid a living wage, people wouldn't need SNAP. And I'm getting angry now, but like this fundamental mentality that people on the center and right have that well, Americans are lazy and we got to get them to work. Americans do work. Americans are not lazy. They're one of the hardest working. I mean, we are one of the hardest working nations in the world. We didn't build what we built by accident. It was through enslavement, genocide, and forced labor, right? And now the reward for all that is that low-income people are told, you get these crumbs and scraps, but we're not going to hold the corporations accountable who are doing this to you. It's absurd. And that's where, until and unless that fundamental structure is changed, we're going to just keep kicking the can down the road, claiming, well, we made a point. No, you didn't. All you did was appease your corporate masters to keep funding your campaign so that you can just kind of be not an opposition party, but confuse the public on what the actual issues are. We need structural change. This is not going to solve anything.
Yeah. How hopeful are you that things will shift within the Democratic Party? I mean, you have a candidate like Zoran Mamdani, who won in New York. There is a lot of enthusiasm behind him, at least right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of eyes on New York. I don't know how much New York is necessarily a reflection of national politics, but you seem to have a good faction of the Democratic Party, or the left, leftist folks, who are hungry for more progressive voices. People like AOC and people like Bernie, who are speaking out right now. The squad, as they call them. How hopeful are you that things can begin to shift within the Democratic Party? And as you're saying, some of this whole campaign finance thing is just it's so fundamental to why we are where we all are right now, with Citizens United being passed in 2012, which just opened the doors to so much corporate money, flooding politics. I mean, are we past the point of no return? How hopeful are you that things can shift?
I'm always hopeful, Dara. I never lose hope. This is something that was asked of James Baldwin in his final few years. That how do you manage the anger and despair? And he said, he goes, I will never despair. I'll be angry, but I won't despair for this country. He goes, you can't tell the children there's no hope. I can't tell my children there's no hope. I think we have to be hopeful by definition. Being angry and being hopeful are not contradictions, right? You're angry because you see an injustice, but you're hopeful because you believe that, as Dr. King said, the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. And so you have to keep fighting for that. Now, in terms of practical, seeing the progress and changes, look, this is one of the frustrations with watching these 8 corporate Democrats fold so quickly. They couldn't give us 1 week of happiness and joy. They couldn't give us 1 week, 5 days. Like, oh, that's enough. No more. I was like,
tired of feeling like winners.
Thank you, right? Yeah, it's like, no, we need to snatch, defeat from the jaws of victory. Yeah. And so I am hopeful because I think it shows what's possible. It shows what happens when we organize the many over the money. When we come together. I mean, Mamdani, a brown Muslim immigrant from Uganda, of South Asian ethnicity, comes out of nowhere, takes down probably one of the most powerful political dynasties of the last, 75 years. And I said it comes out of nowhere, but when you study what he did, it was excellent. It's a proven model, and it can happen again and again. And I want to talk about your comment about, is that going to work in a different part of the country? I think it does. I was talking to Delegate Sam Rasool in Virginia, who's in a rural part of Virginia, ran on the exact same platform as Zoran Mamdani. He won 70-30 in his district because he engaged with the community. He's authentic. He's genuine. He's Palestinian. He got attacks of being anti-Semitic because he opposes genocide and all these things. And he goes, look, these are human principles. And, we also talk about, well, it's a very leftist platform. And I always push back and I say, I'm sorry, what about ensuring someone doesn't die of cancer because they can't afford it is leftist? What about ensuring people have a living wage is quote-unquote leftist? What about ensuring that the billionaires pay their fair share of taxes is leftist? Between 1940 and 1980, under Republican presidents, the top 1% paid a 91% marginal tax rate. That's how we electrified America. That's how we built the infrastructure. That's how we subsidized housing. That's how we subsidized education. What about that is leftist? It's what built this country in the 20th century. All we're saying is we have a proven model. And that model involves investing in the middle class with meaningful resources. Don't hide behind your white supremacy just because Jim Crow is over and say we don't want black and brown people to have access to the same things that white people had access to for the entire history of the American.
That's a whole conversation.
Absolutely, it is.
That's a whole conversation.
We need to have it.
Yeah.
But that's what's driving this, though. And then there's a Washington Post study a couple of years ago that said that white people don't actually mind welfare. They just mind black and brown people getting access to the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah, 100%. We're talking with Qasim Rashid, who is a human rights lawyer. He is an activist in every way. Qasim, can you tell folks where they can find you and how they can connect with you online?
Yeah, I am everywhere on social media at just my name, Qasim Rashid, Qasim Rashid. My Substack, Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid, is also my website, qasimrashid.com. No paywall. You can subscribe for free. You can become a paid subscriber. You can join our conversations here, but I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you one more question about this whole kind of inter-party dynamics with the Democrats before we move on. And I kind of grill you about this Epstein stuff really quickly.
Jeez.
But do you feel like there's a fissure happening? And I talked to Gerard, I don't know if you know commentator Gerard LeConte, but I talked to him yesterday about this same thing, asked him kind of the same question. Do you feel that there is a fissure that is happening within the Democratic Party between that sort of centrist wing and the left wing of the Democratic Party that maybe is becoming unfixable at this point?
I think that the fissure is actually not between the centrists and the progressives in the party. I think the fissure is between the centrists and the Democratic Party base in general. Right? When you look at what the Democratic Party base wants, more than 70% want universal health care. Right? More than 90% want corporate money out of politics. More than 90% believe climate change is real. More than 90% support reproductive health access. More than 80% support, increasing immigration. Something like 68% wanted to cancel student debt. All these things that are called these leftist progressive policies are actually the core of what the Democratic Party base wants. And so to me, the conversation needs to shift from, is this, a civil war between the party leadership? It's actually a civil war between the corporate establishment and the entire rest of the party. That's what every poll has told us over and over again. And it's been devastating to us. Look at what happened, and we've talked extensively about the 2024 election. But you had, I'll bring up Palestine for a second. You had 30 different polls, 30 across the country in swing states and national polls say, if Harris and Walz simply come out and say, we're going to stop funding Netanyahu, they will see a 6 to 8 point bump minimum. This was consistent across 30 different polls.
Well, did you see her recent interview with Angela Ryan? She actually admitted this.
Exactly. And that's the frustrating
she
part.
Should have moved leftward on that.
And that's the frustrating part, that they know this.
Yeah.
They know this. This is not like some, harebrained, pie-in-the-sky idea, tinfoil hat theory. They know this, and they refuse to do it because Joe Biden said, no daylight, kid. We thought that was an extremely racist and kind of misogynistic thing to refer to as, she's the vice president, for God's sakes, and you're telling her, nope, you're going to do what I'm telling you to do, or else. I think that's insane, and Joe Biden does not get enough criticism for that.
Yeah.
And so I think the American people, the Democratic Party base, they're waking up to realize, hey, hold on a second. We can't sit here and get behind these corporate Democrats when they're effectively funded by the same people funding the MAGAs who are causing the problem in the first place. It's absurd. And so where I want people to stay organized and activated, and this is, by the way, I'm a Democrat. I run as a Democrat. I've been the Democratic nominee for Congress. And now I've also registered with the Working Families Party for this reason. Because the way the Working Families Party works is they get involved in primaries and they hold the Democratic Party accountable in the primary. They're the ones who elected Letitia James, first AG in U.S. history to hold a president accountable. They're the ones who helped elect Zoran Mamdani. They're the ones who helped elect Ghazala Hashmi in Virginia. And so, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. And so to me, that's the solution. That's why I have hope, because I see Maurice Mitchell, you should have him on the show. I don't know if you have in the past, but he's phenomenal.
Yeah. Is he the head of the Working Families Party? Yeah, of course. Yeah. We had him on.
He's brilliant.
That was thanks to you?
Oh, there you go. So look at this. I'm just throwing out, I'm just doing things I don't even know. And so I see the hope and I see the solution there. And I feel like the party will eventually get there. But this is why I tell folks, don't lose hope. Stay active and engaged and get behind the people doing the work because they need you. And the Mamdani model shows the many will defeat the money every single time.
Yeah. We're going to go to Spiritual Warrior on line 1 who has a comment for Qasim. Good morning, Spiritual Warrior, and welcome to the front page.
Good morning, family. The guest is a joy to have, and what I like about him, the first time he came on, which was a few months ago, he was not afraid to say why the Democrats lost the election. But you got Democrats now in the Congress and the Senate, they will not admit what it is that made them lose. They picking out the economy, they picking out this, but it was that war. It was her not backing up or backing up Biden when Biden really should have said, he should have put the restraints on Israel, and then that would have made it cleaner for her to get into the election. But since she followed up and said she's following the same way he going, everybody just said, the people who were voting for Trump, they voted for Trump just to let the Democrats know this is how we doing y'all, since y'all doing us like this. I'm talking about the people over there in Gaza. They showed who they was voting for. So I figure the Democrats gave the election to Trump. Trump did not win nothing. He did not win nothing. The Democrats gave it to him. But then again, you got big money that's into the elections, and I don't think we're going to have any kind of fair thing until we get rid of big money. Yeah. People that paying these jokers to do opposite of what we telling them to do or what we voted for them to do. So that's all I wanted to say. Brother, you keep it up. And once again, we put on our minds. When we put on our minds that we want change to happen, we got to send that out to those jokers who making it, who's oppressing us. So that's one thing that we all can do. Put on our minds to those weak minds that's in the Congress and the Senate to get stronger, because they're going to lose their job because of us. We're going to vote them out. Thank you, my people, for listening, and God bless us all.
All right. Thank you, Spiritual Warrior. So he's essentially saying that the Democrats lost the election for themselves. Joe Biden set Kamala up to fail, which I think is probably something that's starting to occur to a lot of people at this point.
No, he's exactly right. And look, I wrote about this the day after the election last year, kind of analyzing and breaking down. And I said, look, there's no doubt that racism and misogyny played some role in people going after VP Kamala Harris. I think you'd be a fool to ignore that. And I think the second part is true as well, that the policies such as on Gaza hurt immensely and were the ultimate kind of straw that brought the camel's back type of scenario. There's an IMEU poll that came out that asked people why they decided to stay home. Because the brother was right. Trump didn't actually get many more votes in 24 than he got in 20. I think it was maybe 1 million more. But Harris lost about 10, 11 million votes compared to Biden. And the poll asked, what was the number one reason? If you didn't vote, if you stayed home, what was the number one reason? Number 2 was the economy at 24%. Number 1, 29%, was the genocide in Gaza. So 1 in 3 people who stayed home, that was the reason why. And again, it wasn't like a crystal ball, tinfoil hat theory. 30 polls told us this. And that's where I think we're seeing now, 92% of Democrats right now want to stop funding Netanyahu, 77% wanted back then. This is a key point. And I'll close this conversation here because we could talk about this for hours, because I know you want to get to the Epstein files too. You can't, as a centrist, you can't say on one hand, Democrats are so irrelevant. I'm sorry, that progressives are so irrelevant to the Democratic Party that we don't need to include them in our conversations. And on the other hand, say, well, you guys are the ones who cost us the election. Well, which one is it? Either the progressive wing is relevant and you should include them in conversations, or own the loss yourself. Right? At the DNC, I thought it was beautiful that you had an Israeli family speak about their experience. Why wouldn't you also have a Palestinian family speak about their experience? Why? And I was out there, outside the United Center in Chicago, protesting at 3 a.m, waiting for them to say, yeah, we will. And we had a Palestinian elected representative from Georgia who was a Harris delegate with a speech that was vetted and approved by the campaign, and they still said no. Yeah. So, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. Was that Rua?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. We're mutuals as well, and I love her.
Yeah, you should have her on here too. She's great.
I would love to have her on. Well, we're going to talk about the Epstein files, Qasim. I want to go further down that rabbit hole that with you, but we don't have the time this morning because I feel like there are a lot of Republicans who are now, even MAGA Republicans, who are now speaking up about this whole issue of Palestine and are now coming around and saying this is our breaking point here with the party, and we do not understand this full-throated embrace of Israel and support of Israel, and we can't get behind it, and it makes no sense. And so from both wings of both parties, we're hearing kind of some of the same messaging. Well, about these Epstein files, Qasim.
What?
How's about these Epstein files? We're talking this morning, by the way, with Mr. Qasim Rashid, who is a human rights lawyer. Now, are you a lawyer or an attorney, or are you both? You actually argue in court, right?
Yeah.
So you're an attorney.
Is there a difference?
There is. Elizabeth Booker Houston had to straighten me out on that. She's like, I am not an attorney because I do not actually present arguments in court.
Oh, if she said it, I believe it. I'm not going to argue with her.
I thought this was a universally known thing that maybe I was just unaware of.
No, it's news to me.
Yeah, I have to be very careful. Okay, so he is a human rights attorney and is also an activist and does so many other things. You can follow him online at Qasim Rashid. Qasim Rashid or Qasim.Rashid?
Just full name,
QasimRashid.com. Okay, QasimRashid.com. He's on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You probably have a YouTube, don't you?
I do.
I've never been to
all of
YouTube.
them. I've been on stuff people haven't heard of. Mastodon.
I've heard of Mastodon, but
Spoutable.
Blue Sky
Threads
has a huge Substack. Now, if you're into the newsletters, Qasim has a huge Substack. How many subscribers at this point?
We're about to crack 160K.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Amazing. So yeah, QASIM RASHID QA, not QU, but QASID. QASIM.
Dot RSHID or RS. You got me all messed up too now. See, just my name. Just stick to my name and it's fine. You'll be good.
It's spelled how it sounds.
That's right. Qasim Rashid. Also Qasim Rashid.
Qasim Rashid. You can find him online. So these Epstein files, how big a deal is this? Democrats, along with the Epstein estate, released a slew of emails. I hear that there are more coming.
Yeah.
And the timing could not have been a coincidence on the day that Congress was basically went back into session and this whole bill was funded. Everything's moving forward. The government is reopening. And then, boom, this big bombshell hits where now we have Epstein himself in emails having referenced Trump knowing about his quote-unquote girls and being alone with one of these girls for a period of time. He says Trump is the dog that hasn't barked, this kind of thing. How significant is this?
Look, I think that two things are going to happen. I think you're going to have a core base of the MAGA cult that's going to find a way to whitewash it. Mm-hmm. Because their entire personality is ingrained in Trump for some bizarre reason. It's like, it's a psychosis. I don't get it. It's a cult. I mean, it absolutely is. And so you're going to have a bunch of people say that, and I think the precedence for that, and you've come from the world of kind of you've seen the evangelicalism in some of these churches where, somebody will commit abuse and then come up and ask for forgiveness and then they'll embrace him. And it could be horrific abuse, but because you ask forgiveness, so Trump will probably do something like that. Mm-hmm. But I think what I'm hopeful for is that at least 5%, 10% break off and say, okay, this is just a bridge too far. Right? Which it sounds wild, like, the racism, fascism I can tolerate, but the pedophilia is a bridge too far. Like, why are any of them tolerable, first of all? But I think that's kind of where we are right now. So hopefully if we get 5-10%, we see some spots like Thomas Massey out of Kentucky. I can't believe I'm saying this, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is wild. I mean, we're seeing some of the hardcore MAGAs break off. And so all we need really are just 5 to 10. If they break off and we can get to a place of impeachment, and on the Senate we got a couple to break off, we can get somewhere, I think. But my fear, my honest to goodness fear, and this, you can make fun of me if you want about this theory, because I have no evidence behind it. My fear is I can see this guy accelerate nuclear testing or do something wild and insane to prevent accountability. Because when you corner a wild animal, they will go nuts. And I feel like that's what this person will do to prevent any kind of meaningful accountability whatsoever.
Yeah, there was someone on Threads who was kind of making that same point. They're like, okay, when we came to the point where I think it was around the Epstein files too, where they were about to release them. Like at each and every point, some sort of crisis happened, some ridiculous world crisis that turned everyone's attention away because it was just that important that he, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Wag the dog's a documentary. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and we saw Netanyahu do this as well. That people forget he's facing from his own government bribery and corruption trials, and he was about to be removed around the time that he accelerated the siege and the genocide in Gaza. Even recently, after the so-called ceasefire, he's in court facing a hearing for his corruption charges, and he orders a strike on Gaza, killing 104 Palestinians on a made-up excuse that, there was Hamas. I mean, no. But they killed 104 Palestinians, and it got him out of trial, and then the court adjourned and said, we'll have to revisit this in a couple of weeks. And so that's kind of a tried and true practice. So I can see Trump, and that's my fear, and that's why when I hear him talk about, restarting nuclear testing, that's my fear. Because it sends a signal globally as well that he's not afraid to use nuclear weapons. And so if I'm China, if I'm India, if I'm Russia, I'm on high alert that this sociopath is now testing nuclear weapons again for the first time in over 30 years. There's nothing new to learn here, by the way. Yeah. This is just a flex to say, yes, I am that crazy that I will do this, so don't try me. And that's what I'm truly worried about right now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing us the truth of it all. Qasim, there are very few people who can break it down in the way that you do, which is one of the reasons that I fool with you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Can't say it the other way on the air. But I fools with you, Qasim. And I want to thank you so much for taking time to come in and talk to us anytime, Qasim. You want to come back and
no doubt
and school us.
No, I love being here, and for the record, I was up this morning when you called.
We had a debate going.
No.
We had a debate going in the studio, I have to say.
Because I'm on Chicago time. I'm on Chicago time, so it's 8 a.m. Like our sister Maya.
Yeah, you are.
Like our sister Maya, I'm Muslim, so I gotta be up to pray at that time anyway. I was up. You interrupted my prayer. You interrupted my time.
Oh no! Now I feel horrible.
How's your prayer, guys?
I feel horrible.
You're good.
We enjoy any little crumbs that you can give us, Qasim.
It's all the privilege to be here.
We're appreciative of. Follow Qasim Rashid on all social media platforms. You can find him, of course, at QasimRashid.com. QasimRashid. Qasim Rashid. Thank you so much for being with us, Qasim, today. We've enjoyed you immensely.
That was my conversation with Dara Starr Tucker. I adore this person. She's just amazing. She's been doing this work for so long, and she's so good at it. And if you are in the Los Angeles region, make sure you check out her show every morning, I think at like 5 a.m. local time. That was a doozy to get there that early, but I enjoyed it as well. If you have not hit subscribe yet, what are you waiting for? Hit subscribe on YouTube and on Substack. It goes a long way towards supporting my advocacy, getting this message out there as well. We've got a phenomenal show lined up for next week as we talk about how we hold the Democratic Party accountable. One of those ways is in the primaries with the Working Families Party. This is a party, by the way, that elected Zoran Mamdani, that elected Letitia James, that elected Ghazala Hashmi, Lieutenant Governor in Virginia. And so we are seeing demonstrable results. I mean, these are seismic elections. A lieutenant governor, a New York AG, the mayor of New York City, these aren't small potatoes. These are accomplishments. And if you know me, I want proven models, and that's what these guys are demonstrating. We're going to have Maurice Mitchell on, the president of Working Families Party, executive director, I think is the actual title. In any case, he'll be on. We'll be talking about what it looks like going into the midterms and how we build an actual opposition party committed to justice and humanity. You're listening to the Qasim Rashid Show. My friends, thank you for tuning in. Be safe. Continue to fight fascism. Continue to speak truth to power. Until next week, peace.